Hey everybody, it's Dr. Will Cole. We're live here in our Functional Medicine Health Center in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where we see patients around the world via webcam and phone consultations at drwillcole.com and locally in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And we've been doing these Tuesdays at 2 or 3 p.m. sometime in the afternoon on the East Coast, where we talk to my friends in the wellness world. And today we have none other than the Mac twins of the Gut Stuff. How are you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you so much. So
the future looks great. We're talking to you from the future. Right, it's 7 o'clock here. It's fine.
5 hours ahead.
Yeah.
And the future's looking bright. I'm happy.
Looks good.
Fill everybody in on what the Gut Stuff is, who the Mac twins are. I want everybody to know about you.
Okay, so we are primarily DJs, and we have our own radio show and gig around the world. But we also, in our spare time, used to volunteer for Twin Research, which is a medical research facility that's part of King's College, and some hospitals around London. So we basically were chief guinea pigs there because we were willing to get any tests done, and it was just interesting for us at the start to find out physiologically actually what's different,
because we are real life twins. It's not just in the name.
And when we were there, Professor Tim Spector, who is one of the specialists, and he was sort of one of the first people to start talking about gut health, was like, do you guys want to have your guts analysed? And we were like, yes.
So this was about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So nobody really knew what it was about.
So we had to basically send our poo off in the post for like 4 months every day.
Great.
And they put us on different diets and tested us. And we were the first, so obviously I don't know if you know much about the Human Genome Project, but that was happening. They were sequencing DNA and they realised that they could do it with guts as well. So we were one of the first people in the UK to have our guts sequenced. And then they trialled, I think it was 200 other sets of twins after us, and realised that, yep, they were right. Even though we have 100% the same DNA, we have only 30 or 40% the same microbiome, which is all the bacteria and enzymes and everything else in your gut. So our bodies behave really differently. I am always a stone heavier, even if they put us on the same weight. Same diet, sorry. And so they put us on loads of different tests. And as we were doing it, we were like, okay, this is great. This is really interesting for us, but why does nobody know about it? And gut health has such a massive impact. It has such a massive impact on everything else, in terms of mental health, diseases that you're predisposed to, and just overall well-being. And obviously, because technology is still so new, they're learning these things. So
even like on a personal level, I got arthritis when I was 7, juvenile chronic arthritis, and they could never understand why I had it and Lisa didn't, when normally juvenile arthritis would be hereditary. And it's probably got something to do with the antibiotics that we took when we were younger, or because we're obviously, when we were growing up, fed the same thing, and epigenetic-wise, we're exactly the same. So it was just really interesting us from a personal point of view. But then we started looking at the overall picture and got quite angry as to, if people knew about this, then surely they would change their diet or change the way that they live. And the research was coming out, but only in sort of
scientific papers, and sort of like in the UK here we have broadsheet magazines, which are targeted at a specific audience, but the sort of places that we grew up, the places that need this information the most, weren't getting it. So, and nobody was sort of talking about it in an accessible way, obviously, because the science was still so new, so it hadn't trickled down yet. So we were like, oh, maybe we could do a little YouTube series about it. So the YouTube series started off as 6 episodes. We managed to get one of the 6 of the top professors in the world to talk about it. And I think they were just keen because they're used to speaking to like Radio 4 and science papers, and then they were like,
we rocked up and they were like,
what are these 2 DJs coming? So 6 episodes turned into 32 episodes, and then we were like, okay, well, this is a thing now, and we set up the website called The Gut Stuff just ethically, because we wanted somewhere for people to go,
like some unbiased information,
and just if they'd watched the series, just to get some more information. And then the website was getting like thousands of hits, and we were like, oh, okay. So that we set it up just to raise awareness, and now it's like a proper job, and we've got this is our office, and So and what we're learning, we're just trying to put it out in the most accessible way possible, and it's quite good because we're unbiased, because it's not our jobs. So we're just trying to get the word out there as much as possible, and make the science as bite-sized and digestible as possible.
That's so cool. I love how you're now you're immersed in microbiome research during the day and DJs at night. You're like living real life, but you're bringing about this information to the people around the world that aren't in the wellness world or in the healthcare world. But just to recap what you just said, pretty remarkable. Identical twins, but your microbiome, all the trillions of bacteria in your gut, you only share about 30 to 40% of your microbiome. Is that what you had said?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we may as well basically be strangers in the microbiome sense, which we love that fact.
Yeah.
Something that we had to share birthdays and stuff for all our lives. Having a different microbiome, we were literally celebrating.
Yeah, I think as well, I think what that means, because it's difficult, because we are always trying to bring it back to the consumer. So we're like, what practically does that mean for people in their lives? And I think it's the major thing that we've sort of found out and realized, and you guys over in the States are much better at personalized health than we are. And I think we're just testament that the one size fits all model doesn't work, because not only is our DNA behaving differently and reacting with foods, we've got this whole other system within our bodies that reacts in a different way. And
also just from like a completely commercialized point of view, if Lisa and I can't be sold the same thing, then how can one thing be sold to everyone? It's just ludicrous. And I think that the proof was in the pudding, literally, when all this research started to come out, that what was maybe not working for someone, because we've all been there. We've done every fad diet going throughout the years.
Ate solely chicken for 2 weeks.
Oh,
like
potato, pepper, lemon.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord. But it's just a new outlook on health, and we feel so much better of it. And our lifestyles, we have no routine. We can be gigging till 3 a.m. and up again at 7. And just these little tools, little tweaks. It's not about, taking anything away and restriction. It's about adding things. And that's what we got really excited about as well, giving people the tools.
And I think just like thinking critically about things as well, like just giving people the knowledge and the power of the tools to say, right, this is a little bit of science. This is kind of what you need to know. Now go out and because I think we come from a generation where it's like, if someone on Instagram tells us to stand on our heads and eat muesli and we're going to lose 5 pounds, everyone goes, yeah, let's stand on our heads and eat muesli. And I think that it's about empowering people with the tools and the knowledge to kind of go out and question what people are doing.
We were the only people, certainly in the UK, that were speaking to the scientists, because the gap between scientists, the doctors, the dietitians, and the public was so big and vast, and no one was speaking to each other. So that's why we thought, well, we're just going as the public, because that's what we are. We're on the journey together as the public, just going straight to the scientists and going, it starts with you guys, so can you tell us where you're at? But we just got so frustrated, because obviously 2 minutes to them is 10 years, and we were like, we want it now, we want the answers now. And they were like, no, science.
They were like, oh yeah, the research is coming through really quickly. I think maybe in 20 years we'll know. And we're like, what? Hurry up.
So, I mean, for those people that I think a lot of times people are disassociated. They know about the microbiome, they know the gut health's important, they hear about eating yogurts, right? Or yogurt, as you say in the UK.
We actually say yogurt in Scotland.
Oh, okay. Well, the English.
Yeah, England were yogurt, but we're yogurt, so.
That's something the Americans and the Scottish have in common, I guess.
Yeah. With a lot of things.
Yeah, that's right. So tell people what does the microbiome mean for someone's health? They may think I go to the bathroom fine. So what does the microbiome have to do with me? Can you explain to people what that means?
Yeah, so how I think we find the easiest way to describe it is that there is something else living inside you that needs different things than you do.
Pets,
like
we
pets.
Like to call them.
So
they outnumber our human cells by a lot more.
They're still finding out, and quite a long way, from what bacteria does what. So what bacteria makes you slimmer, what bacteria makes you more predisposed to arthritis that causes inflammation. So the best thing that we can do now as punters is put as much bacteria and variety in our tummies as possible.
Good bacteria. But I think there was a big thing in the 80s where bacteria was a bad thing and we sterilized everything and we got to get rid of all bacteria that ever existed in life. But actually 98, I think, % bacteria is good. So when we have things like antibiotics and and other sorts of medication. It just wipes out our bacteria and with the good stuff as well. So, and what we realised that because we've got different bacteria and they don't know them all yet, it's just getting the biggest rainforest, as much pets as you can possibly have,
so
and giving them the best
comes
chance
from
of life.
Variety. So I think people like to meal plan and eat the same thing every day, and actually for your microbiome, we should be eating 30 or 40 different vegetables a week in order to get that. Obviously, probiotics and prebiotics, a good supplement is always good. We're currently trying all of them. We have like 2 weeks and we try different ones each week, and what necessarily works for me won't work for everyone else. Fiber is really good because a lot of the good bacteria use fiber as food.
I mean, there's loads of like different things you can do, but I think what stunned us most about when we learned about the gut, when we tell people about the gut, like our friends are like, oh, my poo, and you're like, well, yeah, it is that, but they actually live all over our body. And I think the main thing about us is when people think about gut health, they think about IBS, IBD, Crohn's, colitis, but actually it affects so many different parts of our bodies. I mean, linked to mental health, Parkinson's, arthritis, loads of other autoimmune diseases. So I think we have to start looking at the microbiome as a bigger picture and not just what goes on in our tummies.
Yeah, I always tell everybody, you don't have to have gut symptoms necessarily to have gut problems. And many people go to the bathroom all right. I mean, they don't have any severe issues, but they're seeing the impact in their brain or the immune system, where 80% of the immune system resides in the microbiome. I know that you guys know this, but I wanted to share this with everybody else. So if for somebody that wants to, hey, I want to start taking care of my microbiome, what's your first step? Would you tell somebody that wants to make this gut healing step?
We always say it's like keep a food diary. So, and I think that's like, it sounds like a really like rubbish thing to tell people, but you'll start to see patterns in the things that you eat and the things that trigger you, and the things that your stomach reacts well to and reacts badly to. So we just sort of like note that, because when we were doing the studies for years, we had to note down everything, and actually we were like, God, every time I ate onions, I felt so bad the next day. And I think that that's a really simple way to do it. Also, for your microbiome, bacteria, fermented foods are something really easy to add into your diet. Bit of an acquired taste sometimes, as you know.
You get used to it, though.
You get used to it, and so obviously like kombucha, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, sourdough. I mean, when we found out about the fermented thing, we were like, yeah, we can eat pickled gherkins all day long. And they were like, well, no, they actually have to be fermented. And we were like, oh, what does that mean? They're like, all right, telling the toddlers again how to ferment. And so then not just like buying a jar of pickles out of the shop, which would be ideal, but nothing good comes easy. The very bare minimum, like if you don't like any of those steps as well, a really easy thing to do is just chew more. And again, that sounds like really cheap advice, but it's like you need to chew your food at least 30 to 40. I mean, we are rubbish at it. We've got little egg timers that we use. So we're chewing it for the right amount.
We're like Hoovers. You can imagine.
We love food, and we're on tour a lot as well, so it's literally like shoving something down our throats.
I think the thing as well is having variety, because I think I eat loads of fruit and vegetables, and then when I actually write them all down, there's probably about 6 main ones that I eat, and we should be having like 30 to 40 different fruit and veg a week, which is mad. But now I just play it like a game. Like I go into the supermarket and I get my trolley, and I'm like, oh, how many can I actually fit in, and how many different colours can I get? And you almost have to treat it like it's about changing the patterns of behaviour rather than completely overhauling your diet, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just having the knowledge sort of makes you like, we found out during our research with the scientists that kale is a fat soluble nutrient. So you have to cook it in order to get the nutrients. And we're like, great. I don't have to put it in a smoothie anymore. Brilliant. And like little things like that is like, I think it makes you feel quite empowered that you're making the right choices. And also processed foods, everyone knows it's bad, but in the YouTube series, when we're speaking to the science, we actually saw what it does to your gut and to your body, and it's really scary. And like, because we always knew like you shouldn't have processed food, it's bad for you, but it does just totally like whitewashes your microbiome and your stomach.
Also, one of the scientists talked about how food intolerances only really became apparent in the 1960s. So something that we've done to our microbiome since then, whether it be sterilising everything has to be clean, even in the house, not just when we're cooking and things, or whether it's to do with us cutting out food groups. That was a big trend, cutting out food groups, or there's like so many too many antibiotics. We're coming to resistant to them now. That food intolerances are getting more and more common. And I think that was like a really interesting thing that just hadn't happened for hundreds of years.
Sorry, we keep thinking. Alana keeps falling, gesticulating, and thinking in the camera. Yeah.
All right.
Get your arm up there.
People know it's live now. It's real life, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Favorite, if you had to pick one, what's your crazy gut health fact that you've learned in your research?
95% of serotonin is produced in your gut.
I love that.
Yeah,
Madness.
literally happy gut.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, what you eat affects your grandkids because there's epigenetics. You can mutate your DNA through what you eat. Literally on that episode, if you watch it, we're just like that. What the whole time.
And I think like when I'm eating now, if I'm having a burger or an unhealthy food, I'm like, oh, my poor grandkids. I mean, I'll probably still eat it anyway and then have some probiotics after. But, you know, it makes you sort of think twice about it when it's not just about me. It doesn't matter. Sometimes people are like, doesn't matter about my health, but I worry for my kids. And I think if it's for your kids and then your grandkids, I think people will start to think twice about it.
So good. That is so good. I mean, that's the power of our fork, the power that we wield, you know? It's just our health, but it's our kids and our grandkids. That's powerful. So one more question. If you had to pick one food and one supplement that's changed your wellness game that you love, that you live by, what would it be?
So I love charcoal, mainly for hangovers. We are like the real, like, we're very honest. Yeah. So charcoal, if I've got like a funny tummy, and for hangovers. I love Simprove for probiotics. And food-wise, to be fair, I love all food. But I think I have to say something like sauerkraut because I'd never heard of it before. I mean, kale was something that we fed the guinea pig when we were younger. Do you know what I mean? We hadn't heard of avocados till about 5 years ago. But I think I have to say sauerkraut.
I love it.
Yeah, mine is kombucha because kombucha is like a fermented tea, if nobody knows what it is. Because I hated it at first. Our friend gave us it to drink about a year ago, and I was like, oh, that is vile. And now I drink it every day, and probably too much of it. And supplements wise, yes, Simprove is probably the one that's worked for both of us. And I think with supplements, just stick at it and do your research, because actually there's a lot of restrictions and legislation around supplements and the way that they're allowed to market themselves. So you have to dig quite deep to find out which ones have gone through studies and which ones might work for you and not. We're actually starting to profile a lot of supplements on the site and unravel their stories and talk about the clinical studies, because to us, what does a clinical study even mean? We're like, could you put that in music industry terms to make it a bit simpler? Because the consumer doesn't know. So we're working on that just now, about trying to teach the public about legislation and what they should be buying, and trying to kind of giving them the information to know which products they should be taking off the shelves and which ones they shouldn't. I mean, when we come to the States, Walgreens is like a candy shop. The dream. We're literally
Well, I'm sure Americans are like Walgreens, but it's funny. Yeah. It is. So how can people get a hold of you? How can they reach out to you and connect with you?
Yeah, so our website is just www.gutstuff.com. We've actually just started we've got loads of read the science, watch the science, and we've got supper clubs, which might be coming to New York soon, but they're just here in the UK at the minute. And also we've got Ask a Nutritionist now on the site, where you can have lots of queries there. And then we're just at the Gut Stuff on Twitter, Instagram. We haven't got Snapchat yet because
Insta stories is the way forward anyway.
Yeah. And the Mac Twins on everything else if you're interested in music.
I'm not helpful.
You guys are awesome. We love you guys, and we'll have to do this again sometime.
Definitely.
Yes, thank you.
All right, talk to you soon.
See you later.